Do you think that grammar alone will make you fluent in Spanish?
Podré para mejorar mi español cuando no tengo mucho tiempo libre para estudiar español.
I'm Hamid, I'm 16 and fluent in Spanish and 3 other languages. And that after video you saw took 120 hours. In this video, I'll show you why focusing only on grammar won't get you fluent. And I'll show you a different approach that actually works. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to start using Spanish naturally and actually get into conversations with natives. And also, if you make it to the end of the video, then I have a free gift waiting for you. You know, the beautiful thing about fluency in Spanish is that it's actually extremely easy to prove and know if you're fluent. Because the actual proof of fluency isn't being able to answer some questions on like this grammar rule and this grammar concept. No, fluency does not equal answering questions like on a written test. Fluency is just conversations with natives. And conversations with natives, communication with natives, is literally provable like right then and there. You're in front of a native, and your ability to communicate with them in the language, aka Spanish, is your fluency. Not your ability to just answer questions about grammar rules and grammar charts and if the word mano is masculine or feminine. Oh, it's actually feminine. But it's like, that's not fluency. Fluency is the conversation with native. And you know, I made a video recently on why grammar is necessary to get fluent in Spanish. But grammar alone won't get you fluent in Spanish. You see, when I was studying Spanish, my grammar phase lasted around 30 hours of studying. And after those 30 hours of studying, sure, I was able to create basically any sentence I wanted given the vocabulary. But that's the point, given the vocabulary. There are still other aspects of language that matter, that dictate fluency. And those aspects should equal having conversations with natives. And this is where we're going to what I like to call the fluency equation. You see, we understand that fluency is having fluidity when you speak. And we understand that our fluency is being able to have effective communication with natives, meaning conversational fluency, which is when both parties of a conversation are able to completely understand each other to the point where we can have a full conversation, aka a back and forth. Therefore, the flow or the fluidity, the fluency, is in the conversation, not necessarily only in your speech. And so putting this into a formula would be this. It would be fluency equals speaking multiplied by understanding. And the reason for this is because a conversation by definition is speaking and understanding. It's I'm speaking and you're understanding me, and then we switch. You're speaking and I'm understanding you. And so the thing that we're speaking in this case is Spanish, but not just any Spanish. We're talking about Spanish with natives, meaning native Spanish, or how I like to call it, real Spanish, right? The Spanish that you hear in real life, not the Spanish that you hear on Duolingo and Dreaming Spanish. We're talking about real native Spanish. And so, you know, if you know math, whatever happens on one side of the equal sign should also happen on the other side of the equal sign, because equal sign means equivalent to, it's the same. So we have to have the same things on both sides. So it would mean that we would have to speak real Spanish and understand real Spanish in order to be fluent. Now, let's make that even clearer. What is Spanish? And this is where we get into it. Spanish is just grammar multiplied by vocabulary. And so if you think about what a Spanish sentence is, it includes the words, and then it includes how the words are placed in an order and how they're sort of conjugated, but the logic behind why those words are placed in that order. That's what grammar is. It's kind of like the logic, the blueprint behind the language. And the language is essentially just a bunch of words, but the grammar is like the logic. And so just focusing on grammar, if you just had the grammar of just speaking grammar and understanding grammar, you will still not be able to get fluent because you still won't be able to create Spanish sentences, because a Spanish sentence isn't just grammar, it's also vocabulary. And actually the main kickback here is that you also probably have been also reading and writing a bunch of grammar, which also isn't even a part of the fluency equation. And so among the reasons of why you can't get fluent in Spanish solely based on grammar is firstly because Spanish isn't only grammar, it's also vocabulary. But also because that most people, when they learn grammar, they don't learn it through speaking and understanding, but they learn it through reading and writing. Meaning, not only are you not doing parts of the fluency equation that's required to be able to be fluent and have a conversation, but you're also doing things that aren't even in the fluency equation, meaning you're doing things that aren't even necessary. You're doing things that are distracting from the real goal. Meaning, you're doing this. You have a bunch of different directions that you're trying to go into. And some of these directions aren't even necessary. The only ones that are necessary are speaking and understanding both Spanish grammar and vocabulary, and doing that in the context of real Spanish. That's what will actually get you there. And this is simply because these are the only parts that are required. And you might be thinking that like, oh, but isn't it beneficial to study grammar by reading or writing? And that's actually a fallacy, because anything can be beneficial in some way, but that's not enough. You see, to achieve X, you want to do the thing that is most conducive to X and do that thing a lot of times. And if we know that that thing is fluency, well then fluency isn't reading or writing. Therefore, nothing that we should be doing should include reading or writing. And more on to that, if we know that fluency is also vocabulary, not doing that means by definition we won't get fluent. By definition, you cannot have a back and forth with a native if you can't understand the words that they're saying and you can't create your own sentences which include words. It's not a matter of debating this or not. It's just a plain fact by definition. Because by definition of fluency, it is being able to speak and understand Spanish, having a back and forth. And Spanish is defined as grammar and vocabulary. So if vocabulary isn't present, if you only have grammar, it's a lost cause. And so this leads me to my final point, which is to learn grammar in the context of conversations. Because if we know that this is what's required for conversations, then real quick before we move on, after years of developing these frameworks and over 100 hours of coaching, I've packed everything into one clear step-by-step program. So if you're serious about learning Spanish, then check the link in the description to join. Back to the video. Learning grammar in any other way, such as reading or writing, is fundamentally not conducive to our goals. And so there are many ways to skin a cat, but you'd rather have a sharp cleaver rather than a butter knife. And so the moral is, use the method that actually works best for your goal, not just any method that might work. If you want to get good at reading or writing grammar in Spanish, by all means, go do that. But you want fluency, right? Like you want to be able to communicate effectively with natives. You want to be able to walk into a coffee shop and be able to speak with natives directly. You want to be that guy who, when you tell people that you're fluent in Spanish, you're not lying. You're actually telling the truth. And you can prove it right in front of them by actually speaking Spanish, actually having a conversation with natives. And so grammar alone won't get you fluent because there are other aspects of the language. If you are studying grammar, make sure you're doing it through speaking grammar and understanding grammar, not by reading or writing grammar. And if you've passed the point of learning grammar, which I did before the summer of 2022, then your sole focus is going to be vocabulary. And by the way, one last quick tip. If you're going to choose to either start with grammar or vocabulary, start with grammar. Grammar is the big hurdle that once you get over, Spanish becomes an inevitability rather than an if, so to speak. And so here's that free gift I was talking to you about. If you check the link in the description, then you can grab my free, easy-to-use Cognate cheat sheet where you'll instantly be able to unlock thousands of Spanish words for free. And it's completely free. There's no email needed. You don't need to opt in or anything. It's just free on yours. And this is just my thank you gift for reaching the end of the video. Otherwise, I really appreciate it if you share this video with someone you think would benefit. And I hope you enjoyed, and stay humble.